Francisco Lindor has been at the center of just about everything that the Mets have done since arriving in Queens. Expectations, the playoff runs, the disappointments, and now questions about what comes next. But despite a difficult season and plenty of speculation about his future, Lindor made his position clear in a recent conversation with the New York Post. His plan is to remain a Met for the length of his contract. So, what does that tell us about how Lindor views the direction of this organization, his trust in Steve Cohen and David Stearns, and just how much patience he has as the Mets try to build their next contender? Joining me now is the man who had that conversation with Lindor. He is the New York Post Mets beat writer, the one and only Mike Puma. Joins me now. Mike, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, Dexter. I'll be better when this road trip's over, but I'm well, thank you.
No, glad to hear you're well. It has been a long road trip. We need to get you back home here in New York, and that'll happen soon. But you have a great conversation with Francisco Lindor. You've covered him for years now. But here's my question: when I read your piece, when he told you that, quote, the plan is to be here for my contract, what struck you the most there with those words? Was it the words themselves or the way he said it? Did it feel different from a standard answer that a player gives about his future? What struck you the most about him saying that?
No, I think what struck me was just that he still loves being a New York Met. He loves playing in New York, and that he views this as a commitment that hey, I think the way he put it was when you sign up for the good and the bad, and right now obviously is the latter, the bad, the way the team is right now, but. No, I think it just struck me that he still loves being a New York Met.
And look, fans should be excited to hear that. And I think what jumped out to me, Mike, was that after everything that's gone wrong this season, right, Lindor's confidence in Steve Cohen and David Stearns doesn't appear to have wavered. So from your conversation with him, what is he seeing in the direction of this organization that maybe frustrated Mets fans aren't seeing right now?
Yeah, and he's a big believer in David Stearns, and we know Steve Cohen, at least for right now, is still in David Stearns' corner. If not, Stearns would have been gone when they changed the managers. But Lindor talks about the future, about how excited he is about what the team did at the trade deadline, as far as restocking the minor league system with some of these prospects they picked up, and there was 11 of them just in the that came in just within the days of the trade deadline there. So he looks at that. He looks at the core, which consists of himself, Juan Soto. Now we don't know what Bo Bichette's going to do after the season. He could opt out if he wants, but Lindor mentioned Bichette. He mentioned, the rookies, Benj and Ewing and Nolan McLean. So he sees a foundation there. You have three real good rookies. You have Lindor, you have Soto, you potentially have Bo Bichette. So he sees that foundation there, and then he's looks at what they did at the trade deadline as far as refurbishing the farm system, and that leaves them to think that the organization's in a decent spot.
Yeah, he really feels like the organization's in a decent spot here because one of the other things that stood out to me, Mike, was he said a losing season can look like you're taking a step back, but that there are things, quote, happening around it or behind it that are actually moving the Mets forward. So when he said that, did it sound to you like optimism or like, that you might just hear from players? We've seen this all the time. Players in the clubhouse locker room, they just have optimism. Or is this a player that really has bought into what David Stearns is building here, even though fans may not see it that way?
Yeah, and we see it in sports. We last year, you look at what happened with the Braves, where they just kind of they had some injuries and they fell off, and uh, here they are a year later in first place. They're going to go, they're in good shape to go back to the postseason here. So you see it with teams, especially teams that have established players, where they have that one year where things don't work out. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily going to be the case with the Mets, but you do see a pathway to it, that there are pieces here in place, but at the same time, a lot of things have not worked out here. So, but no, I think Lindor's point is, hey, there are pieces here, and there is reason to not look at this as a giant step backward.
Now, you brought up that Lindor also talked about the players acquired at deadline, the prospects. And I thought it was fascinating that he specifically brought up Jefferson Rojas, now the number one prospect in the Mets organization, Billy Amick as well, too. What did that tell you about how closely he's following the Mets' young talent and maybe how personally invested that he is in being part of whatever this next version of the Mets becomes?
Yeah, and went down the line, named 5 or 6 guys that he really likes in the system. And he brought up the point that, hey, even though maybe there's not guys knocking on the door right at this moment at AAA, the way a lot of people would like, that we see it where guys make giant leaps. AJ Ewing, case in point, 21 years old, and listen, at this point last year, nobody was talking about AJ Ewing potentially being a significant part of the 2026 mix. And, here he is playing every day in the outfield and putting up solid numbers for the team. So, guys make leaps. Jefferson Rojas is at AA right now. Who's to say that, uh, you know, 2 months into next season, he's not playing every day for the Mets. So, I think Lindor's point was, um, he thinks there's some. He likes the talent level. He likes the guys they brought back in these trades, and that. But to your point, I think it is a good sign that he knows who some of these guys are, and he understands kind of what they have here.
Yeah, that really stood out to me. It really did, Mike, because it told me it's like, okay, he's really connected in what's coming through the farm system. And I felt like that point should at least be encouraging to fans. And to his point, things can change very quickly, right? But there's also a clock ticking here with Lindor because after this season, Lindor is going to be halfway through his 10-year contract, still chasing that first championship with the Mets. Did you get any sense from him, Mike, that the urgency is different now, that he doesn't just want the Mets to eventually get this right, but needs to see them get it right sooner rather than later, like talking about 2027? Did you get a sense of maybe urgency
Yeah,
with him?
maybe a little bit. He brought up the fact that he's 32 years old now, and he's halfway through the contract at the end of this season. Guys sign a 10-year contract, and it seems like an eternity when it happens, and then here we are, what seems like a snap of the fingers, and oh, it's only a 5-year contract now. So I think Lindor can see that window closing a little bit here, and he talks about he wants to win. He considers it part of the duty of the contract is to win here, and the Mets have not done enough of it.
They have not, for sure. Last thing for me here, Mike. After talking with him, do you believe Francisco Lindor will actually play the final 5 years of his contract as a Met? And what would have to happen for that plan to ever change where he isn't a Met through the duration of his contract?
Well, he certainly has the control as with the no trade protection within his contract, and plus the fact that he's a 10-5 player, meaning 10 years in the major leagues, 5 with the same team, so he can veto anything. But as we've seen in the past, we saw it last offseason with Brandon Nimmo, who had the no trade. That uh, sometimes you can be convinced that, hey, maybe you're not part of the plan here. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I would right now, if I were wagering on it, I would probably wager on him finishing his career with the Mets, just because there's a lot of money left on that deal, and it's hard to orchestrate those kind of trades with that kind of money left. But at the same time, you know, we've seen it before. So, but right now, I would, if I were a gambling man, I would wager on Francisco Lindor being a Met. for his entire career.
All right, there you go. I think Mets fans who are fans of Francisco Lindor, they will be happy to hear that. And if you are a fan of Francisco Lindor, you should definitely check out Mike Puma's fantastic piece on Lindor. Great conversation he had with him up right now on nypost.com. Mike, always a pleasure having you here on Straight Outta Flushing. We will talk soon, my friend. Thank you.